I was given an opportunity to teach at a small college in Bridgeport, Connecticut, called Housatonic Community College. And I used to go up there once a week, drive up to Bridgeport, and teach and come back home. I had been teaching private students like Jimmy Garrison, who played with Coltrane, and Sam Reed, who ran the band at the Uptown Theater, and all those people. I had been teaching privately before I left Philly. But that was my first institution in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And a few years after that, around 80, I think about 86, I had started to teach at City College up on Convent Avenue in the place of Gil Evans. Gil Evans was supposed to teach, and John Lewis was, I don't know what his position was there, but he had tried to get Gil to come and teach, and Gil decided not to teach, so they said, okay, would you like to do a semester? So I went up to City College and I taught a semester, and then I was supposed to go on a tour in the next fall, because they wanted to keep me there. They liked what I was doing, and I said, no, I'm going back on the road. But what happened was someone had gotten killed over there in Europe. One of the artists in the group that was booked by this man Ted Curlin out of Boston, and my tour got canceled because the promoters were all upset and everything, and so I didn't get the tour. So then when I go to Europe, I myself on a package thing with a group called the New York Jazz All-Stars. It was Slide Hampton, Jimmy Owens, Hilton Ruiz, Percy, and I mentioned Jimmy Cobb. We went to the North Sea Festival, and I got sick. I had this strong pains in my chest, and while I'm performing, and John Lewis was in the audience, and as they they had paramedics on the side of the stage, which is different, North Sea Festival. And Jimmy Owens said, man, if you don't feel good, get that guy to check your blood pressure. So I went on the side of the stage, and he checked my blood pressure, and my heart was going like Elvin Jones drumming. Boom, 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 boom.
That's another good comparison.
Oh, the rhythm was rough. And so they passed by in the audience, and John said, he said, what's the matter? And I was in a wheelchair. I said, man, something's wrong. I don't feel good. He said, you sounded good. And anyway, they took me upstairs, and they gave me another check, and they took me to a hospital called the Bronnevo Hospital in Leiden. No, it was in The Hague. And I stayed in the hospital. That was the first day of a 3-week tour for George Wein. And I got sick, and I couldn't go. And they said, the doctor came in and said, in a couple of days, he says, we have a possibility of you having an angioplasty, and that would be okay for you, because if you go back on the road now, you're going to have a major heart attack before the year's up. So my wife Mona came over, and they asked me, says, the doctor says to me, you're a jazz musician. Let's show you how hip they are in Holland. I said, yeah. He said, did you know Charlie Parker? I said, yeah, that's my man. He said, yeah, I love this music too. And he says, well, we can do this angioplasty, Mr. Heath. And he says, 90-some% of this, it works, and you don't have to have a problem. You change your diet and all that. I said, you could do anything. You my man. And I
Does
went
he
for the
like Charlie Parker?
angioplasty. Yeah. And he did the angioplasty on me. But they did it at in Leiden, Rembrandt, where Rembrandt comes from.
Yes.
Leiden, Holland, at the University Hospital. I stayed in the hospital for 10 days. And I came back home scared to death and soon went on a tour to Australia with the Philip Morris tour of 3 weeks anyway. But the teaching came right after that. I was offered the position at Queens College. And there was a gentleman there by the name, they call him Dr. Bebop. He's a Jewish friend of mine, one of my heroes, named Howard Brodsky. So Dr. Brodsky, I had met him playing around. I didn't even know he was a professor at Queens. And also, the other gentleman that endorsed my being there was Maurice Perez, who's the conductor of the symphony at Queens. He had known of my music. I had sent him a piece I had written called Afro-American Suite of Evolution that was put on by Jazzmobile in the 70s.
That was the 30-piece band?
Yeah, that was, yeah. It was a big band, choir, and strings. Anyway, Maurice, I had sent him a copy of the score to that when he was conducting, I think, the Kansas City Symphony. He had known John Lewis and the MJQ, and I think he conducted one of the symphonic pieces that the MJQ did, that John wrote. And he had been a friend of Billy Strayhorn and Duke. Mm-hmm. So he's a professor who loves Afro-American and European classical music. So when I got the opportunity and went for an interview at Queens College with Dr. Brodsky, who had been at Queens for a long time, and Maurice Perez sanctioning my appointment, even though I had no degrees, I had a degree from Dizzy Gillespie.
Yes,
and I had world degrees from Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Coltrane, and all of my colleagues. They decided to give me the jazz program, to head the jazz program at Queens College. I stayed there for 10 years and retired because of having another medical problem with prostate and going through radiation therapy and all of that. Plus, I figured 10 years, I was ready then, after having 2 serious, or maybe 3, considering the first thing I brought on myself, illness, and then the heart, and then the prostate. I said, well, I think I want to retire from teaching now and just go around and do workshops and clinics in various institutions around the world, which I still do, and just play and write, because I had begun to write more. I had told Mona, my wife, I said, after I got sick with the heart problem, I said, look, I'm going to stop locking up in the room and staying in there all day writing music and all that. I'm just going to play. That was the biggest lie I ever told.
I'm looking at your wife's face now.
Because when I got over to Queens and I had this program, the jazz program over there, the impetus of the program is to have, of course, the symphony for Western classical music and a big band, which I loved. So I started writing every semester new stuff for my students to play on their concerts. And I got to writing, and I got to writing big band music so much. I probably have about 50 big band arrangements. A lot of them haven't been recorded, haven't been played now at this time. But that brought about a lot of writing, and I got hold of a Macintosh computer when I was at Queens. And that was the way to go to write. I have all my modules with different sounds and everything. It still sounds like a glorified accordion, but I'm able to edit my big band music. You know, so
by using the modern technology.
Yes,
Yes,
I use that.
Yes.
But I use my piano first of all, and then I get my ideas, or my saxophone, and get my ideas, and then I refine it and go to the computer. The thing about the computer is my editor. As Duke had his orchestra that he could write, and then if he didn't like it, he could throw it away.
Yes.
But I can even do better than that because I can write it, and if it don't sound right on my playback, I say delete, and I put another line in that sounds better, and I don't have to wait till get to the gig that night and get the big band together. So it's an editing device. It's nothing I carry on my gigs or do anything like that.
But I understand that while you were at Queens, that the program expanded to a master's degree
Yes,
program.
it changed during the...
Under your administration.
Yes, it
Yes.
changed to a master's program.
Which is fantastic.
And it's a master's in jazz performance. I think my forte as a teacher was being a person who can communicate to young people a sense of humor, a sense of life, and knowing my trade and what I have accumulated from my peers over a long period of time. It's not being a person who went to school for 4 years and got a doctorate, has never experienced being in the world of jazz. How can they teach jazz? The music.
Very good.
And that's what I think.
Experience.
That's why the experience. I could give them some of the experience. I could, tell them about the experiences. I can't give them experience, and I always brought that out. That you're going to have to get out there and experience these things and work on it. It's hard work.
Indeed.
A jazz musician, an improvising musician, is a scientist. You are put to a test every time you get on the stage, and you have to pass that test. Most of the times you can, and other times, if you prepare yourself, most of the times you can. Other times you're going to fail. But it's something that is a daring. You have to have a confidence, and you have to be confident about what you're doing. So you got to work on it and get it together in what we call the woodshed. You got to practice. You got to listen to all kinds of music and absorb whatever you can from the musics of the world.
Just like you did when you went to the library to listen to Stravinsky and
True.
others. Yes.
Yeah, just like
And the
now.
passion. And the passion.
Yeah, just like now when I'm listening to Debussy. I just got a chamber music CD of Debussy, which I hadn't heard, but Andre Watts and some other people playing them. It's small group stuff, other than the symphonies. But I got my collection.
I bet you do.
And I also like to listen to it at night, to
Ah,
classical music.
yes. To the African American classical or European?
European classical.
European classical.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, if I listen to jazz, it keeps me too... I'm analytical, and I'm wide awake.
Are you saying the European classical puts you to sleep?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Doesn't it? It's so soothing. Violins will put you to sleep.